So I have started a drone mapping company which is into vegetation and land drone mapping and analysis. And me being someone who loves to make workflows and optimize workflows, I have started with a kind of tooling for the analysis. I took a while to get there. Of course, there were several steps. So if I was to explain what I did from the start, the whole background scene is that I moved from the Netherlands back to India about a year ago, last June, and it's June 18th today. So from there on, I've been making this shift happen. One of the pivotal points in this whole thing was in buying the drone, and what happened there was I knew I wanted a multi-spectral drone. I did hesitate a bit because it was expensive. It was about 6 lakhs, and that's in rupees, of course. And there was some issues with how the Indian government considers DJI drones. This was a DJI drone, but as a consumer and as global analysis and drone flying goes, DJI is a well-known brand. It's world renowned, and it has a really good package. So basically it's a fixed payload, so I can't swap out the payloads, but I'm looking for my shades. I don't have shades. It's a fixed payload, but it's one of the cheapest multi-spectral payloads. So this drone I have is the Mavic 3M. So it's a Mavic 3 multi-spectral, and it's an enterprise series kit. So I've got something called the Fly More combo, which is a big box, and it comes with 3 batteries in total. Each battery lasts about 35 to 40 minutes of flight time before the return to home is triggered. And it's got a couple of extra propellers and the charging hub for these multiple batteries and these kind of things. And it all comes in a nice hard case, which is great. So somebody has stopped right in front of me, but he's given way. And this kit basically is what I carry around and I do my drone mapping with. And so yeah, that is about the kit. After I picked up the drone, now I think it was a psychological shift as well, because then I was committed to making it happen, because I'd invested a lot of my savings into it, and it was a risk, it was a gamble in some ways. Although I think looking back at it, it was just what it had to be. I really wanted to pick this up and do things with it, and so yeah, immediately after I picked it up, I shifted into one gear of intensity, which was in exploring opportunities to work and make some money out of it. And so I had asked the person I picked up the drone from to let me know if there were any gigs I could do. And I actually did get some gigs, maybe one in particular, which was a turning point because I made some money out of it for a demo. But back then I didn't have any analysis workflow, so it was still about using just the processed outputs And here again, I didn't have much idea about open source processing softwares either. So I needed to use DJI Smart Farm, which is pretty good actually. But yeah, it seems a little bit too good to be true, in that they give it to you to use for free, but at some point they're going to start charging, and if you do get used to that workflow, then yeah, you might have a hard time shifting out of it and might feel obligated to use that. But that aside, it's also a security concern, because as the Indian government is currently deploying a ban on DJI drones, citing safety reasons, I think the processing part is where we need to be most careful. The drone itself, I don't know if it really transmits that high resolution of imagery to these different places in real time, because I would imagine they need huge data centers to accommodate for all of that, to gather all of that imagery, and it just might not seem to be in the company's best interest. And even if it was for some ulterior motive of threatening the security of the nation, what do they do with that? They get a real-time detail about the place, sure, and yeah, then you still need to attack it in some way, and that is the actual thing which needs to be defended against. Because regardless of whether they have this high resolution imagery or not, they would know from other sources what are the targets they need to hit. But that aside, even if they were to use it, I think uploading it to their servers officially is more of a risk than actually just flying the drone and processing that data elsewhere. So the point being, at that time when I got this gig, I just went ahead and used this to process it, and I got outputs which I shared, and I did some manual analysis, and also used the DJI Smart Farm app to give me some variable rate analysis too, and that is kind of useful, because what that did was, it was like NDVI zoning. That's the main output I kind of leveraged for this particular demo, which mainly meant that I took an NDVI orthomosaic. NDVI is Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, and it highlights crop stresses. But now, knowing that this is an indicator of crop stress, how do you use it for insight? And the way you use it for insight is by identifying classes of these different NDVI values. For example, you bucket it into, let's say, 5 buckets of different ranges across the spread of values, and then you can select the best, let's say the best values class. Let's call that good health, and you can see which part of your farm is in good health, or in the best health rather, and which is in the worst health. And that's already a good insight, because then you know which part of your farm is doing well or not.